Gym bros are gonna hate me for revealing this to you, but bodyweight training can outperform traditional lifting. Most people assume that if you want to build serious muscle, you need a barbell, a rack, and a gym membership. That assumption has been quietly falling apart for years, and science is finally catching up to what elite gymnasts and street workout athletes have known all along. Calisthenics, when programmed correctly, does not just match weight training for muscle growth. In several key areas, it actually surpasses it. The reason comes down to how your body responds to tension, motor recruitment, and mechanical load. When you move your own body weight through demanding ranges of motion, your nervous system fires at an extraordinarily high level. Your stabilizing muscles engage simultaneously, and your connective tissue adapts in ways that isolated machine work simply cannot replicate. The result is not just bigger muscles, it is stronger, more resilient, more athletic muscle. The 7 exercises covered here are not random movements pulled from a workout trend. Each one is backed by biomechanical research and hypertrophy science, and each one is specifically designed to push your body into the kind of progressive overload that drives real, lasting muscle growth. The first exercise is the pseudo-planche push-up, and it immediately separates itself from the standard push-up by shifting the entire mechanical demand of the movement. In a standard push-up, your hands are placed beneath your shoulders. In the pseudo-planche variation, your hands are positioned near your hips, with fingers pointing backward, and your body leans forward aggressively over your wrists. This forward lean dramatically increases the load on your anterior deltoids and chest, while simultaneously forcing your serratus anterior and core to work overtime to maintain a rigid, hollow body position. Research on anterior deltoid activation shows that this movement rivals or exceeds the shoulder recruitment seen in overhead pressing with weights. Beyond the deltoids, the triceps are under constant tension throughout the full range of motion, and the pectorals are stretched and contracted through a mechanically disadvantaged position that creates enormous time under tension. For hypertrophy, time under tension is one of the most critical variables, and the pseudo-planche push-up delivers it in abundance. Beginners can start with a slight forward lean and gradually increase the lean as strength develops, making this a highly scalable movement with virtually unlimited progressive overload potential. The archer push-up takes unilateral training to a level that most gym-goers never experience with dumbbells. In this movement, you lower your body toward one arm, while the opposite arm extends fully to the side, nearly straight, acting as a guide and a stabilizer rather than a primary mover. The working arm handles the vast majority of the load, creating a stimulus that closely mimics a single-arm push-up, but with enough assistance to allow for full range of motion and controlled eccentric loading. The eccentric phase, which is the lowering portion of any exercise, is where the most significant muscle damage and subsequent hypertrophic response occurs. Studies on eccentric training consistently show superior muscle growth compared to concentric-only work, and the archer push-up forces a slow, controlled descent on one side with every single repetition. The chest, anterior deltoid, and tricep on the working side are all driven through a deep stretch under load, which is one of the most powerful triggers for muscle hypertrophy identified in recent exercise science literature. Additionally, the rotator cuff and scapular stabilizers on both sides are constantly engaged, building shoulder health and joint integrity alongside raw muscle mass. The typewriter pull-up is one of the most underrated upper body exercises in existence, and its ability to build the back, biceps and rear deltoids simultaneously, while also developing extraordinary shoulder stability, makes it a cornerstone of any serious calisthenics program. You begin by pulling yourself up until your chin clears the bar, then you shift your body weight laterally from one side to the other while remaining at the top of the movement. The name comes from the side-to-side motion that resembles the carriage of an old typewriter. What makes this movement exceptional from a hypertrophy standpoint is the combination of isometric holds, lateral tension shifts, and the unilateral loading that occurs each time your weight transfers to one arm. The latissimus dorsi on the loaded side is forced to work against gravity in a shortened position, while the opposite side works through a lengthened, stretched position. This simultaneous stretch and contraction across both sides of the back within a single repetition creates a unique mechanical stimulus that standard pull-ups and lat pull-down machines cannot replicate. For overall back thickness, width, and the kind of functional strength that transfers to athletic performance, the typewriter pull-up is extraordinarily effective. Dips are already a respected mass-building exercise, but the forward lean variation transforms them into one of the most complete chest and tricep developers available in any training modality. By leaning your torso forward during the dip, you shift the primary load from the triceps onto the lower and outer portions of the pectoralis major. The stretch at the bottom of a forward-leaning dip is deep and intense, placing the chest under significant mechanical tension in its most lengthened position. Recent research from exercise physiologists has highlighted that training muscles in their lengthened position produces superior hypertrophic outcomes compared to training in shortened positions, and the bottom of a forward-leaning dip is one of the deepest loaded stretches you can achieve for the chest without any equipment beyond parallel bars. And honestly, this is why so many people are starting to move away from the idea that fitness has to destroy your joints or leave you exhausted every single day. A lot of people are now combining strength training with simple mobility and stretching routines designed to support flexibility, recovery, circulation, and even metabolism in a much more sustainable way. There's one program in particular that uses short daily stretching routines to help people stay active and support fat burning without needing intense cardio or endless gym sessions. If you want to check it out, I've linked it in the description below. Anyway, the triceps remain heavily involved throughout the pressing phase, and the anterior deltoids contribute significantly to the overall movement. When performed with added weight via a dip belt, this exercise becomes one of the most potent upper body mass builders in any program, calisthenics or otherwise. The L-sit and its progression toward the V-sit represent a category of core and hip flexor training that has no true equivalent in conventional weight training. In an L-sit, you support your entire body weight on your hands while holding your legs parallel to the ground, creating an isometric contraction of extraordinary intensity across the hip flexors, rectus abdominis, and quadriceps. The V-sit takes this further by raising the legs above horizontal, increasing the lever arm and the demand on every muscle involved. What makes this progression remarkable for muscle development is the combination of high-intensity isometric tension and the neurological demand of maintaining a rigid, compressed body position under full body weight load. Research on isometric training shows that sustained contractions at high percentages of maximum voluntary contraction produce significant hypertrophic adaptations, particularly in deep stabilizing muscles that dynamic exercises often fail to reach. The L-sit to V-sit progression also builds the kind of core stiffness and hip flexor strength that directly improves performance in every other exercise on this list and in athletic activities across virtually every sport. The pike push-up and its ultimate progression to the full handstand push-up represent the most demanding overhead pressing movement a human body can perform using only its own weight. In the pike push-up, your hips are raised high and your body forms an inverted V shape, placing your shoulders in a position that closely mimics an overhead press. As strength and skill develop, the progression moves toward a full handstand push-up against a wall, and eventually to a freestanding handstand push-up, which requires not only exceptional pressing strength, but also balance, proprioception, and total body tension that no barbell overhead press can demand. The deltoids, upper trapezius, and triceps are the primary movers, but the rotator cuff, serratus anterior, and entire core must work in perfect coordination to maintain the inverted position throughout every repetition. Studies on overhead pressing movements consistently rank the handstand push-up among the highest for overall shoulder muscle activation, and the balance component adds a neurological training stimulus that accelerates motor unit recruitment and long-term strength adaptation. Together, these 7 exercises form a complete, science-supported system for building muscle, developing stability, and forging the kind of athleticism that weight training alone rarely produces. The biggest misconception in fitness is that muscle can only be built with barbells and machines, but as you've seen, the body responds to tension, control, and progressive overload, not just heavy weights. So now, I want to hear from you. Which of these calisthenics exercises do you think would humble you the fastest? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you want more videos on muscle building, bodyweight training, fat loss, mobility, and performance-focused fitness strategies, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video.